Hello, this is Kylie with Fem and Flow. I hope everyone's having a great day. Today, I wanted to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how this relates to personal and spiritual growth, elevated consciousness, and the false matrix. I briefly mentioned this in a previous podcast episode, but I want to go more in depth. So, just to start it off, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs model is a way of organizing human needs from the most basic to the most advanced. Maslow says the most basic needs must be met before people can move up to the more advanced needs. I've linked an image of this in the podcast notes, so feel free to pull this up so you can see what I'm talking about. But the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a pyramid and it's broken down into 5 different levels. And then within those 5 different levels, they have it broken down into 3 different categories. Start from the bottom of the pyramid, but the 5 different levels of the hierarchy, it's biological and physiological, then safety, and then love and belonging, and then esteem, and then you reach the top, and that's self-actualization. And then, like I said, these 5 levels are broken up into 3 different categories, and that's your basic needs, your psychological needs, and then your self-fulfillment needs. So the first level, biological and physiological, that's a basic need, and that's basically food, sleep, and water, the most basic needs we have. Then you move up to level 2, which is safety. This is also a basic need. This is security, health, and finances. And then third level, love and belonging. This is a psychological need. And that's friendship, intimacy, family, and connections. Then you move up to esteem, and that's also a psychological need. And that's respect, status, recognition, strength, self-esteem. Then you get to the top of the pyramid, and that's self-actualization. And that's a self-fulfillment need. And that's basically meeting your full potential in life. And it's different for every person. But in my opinion, there are 2 levels you can view this. There's 2 different levels you can view self-actualization. Because society tells us one thing about it, but then I think true self-actualization is reaching enlightenment and achieving and being aligned with your soul's true mission here. And I'll get more into this in a little bit. For the pyramid, you're not always constantly moving up and staying. If you hit a hard time, you can move down to lower levels again until you feel safe and secure, or until you get your feet under you again. This pyramid is human psychology, and the dark global elite really use this to their advantage. They take advantage of people at every level of this hierarchy until you have truly reached self-actualization and have reached enlightenment. And like I talk about, enlightenment is when you have that elevated level of consciousness and you can see the big picture and you've reached that Christ consciousness. Like I said, to reach true self-actualization and true enlightenment, it is to see past the false matrix or to see it for what it is, but then be able to be an observer and not let it affect your emotions. I think it's also to see and understand the 4th dimensional influences and not let them affect or control you. It's to see the big picture and the truth, but not let it get you down because you understand your true power and your true divinity. The false matrix definitely programs and teaches a different definition and concept of self-actualization. Some false matrix ideas of control would be how they push A-list celebrities doing charity work, like Oprah giving away material items on her show in her Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa. This is alleged, but you may already know how I feel about these charities these billionaire family foundations and celebrity established churches. Allegedly, well, okay, I guess I don't have to say allegedly because I'm saying this is what I believe. But I believe they are either money laundering, tax avoidance schemes, or sometimes even something more sinister. For example, this is all allegedly, but there are theories that Oprah's Academy for Girls in South Africa and Ashton Kutcher's Thorn Foundation are both to do with aiding in human trafficking. On the outside, it appears they are against this, but how convenient. Like I mention a lot, we really need to question everything. There's no better cover up than saying you have some big foundation that helps the exact thing that you're actually doing behind the scenes. I've mentioned this before, but the number one way this dark global elite makes money is through wars. And another huge way is from human trafficking. And as I say all this, you might even come up in your own head. Some different ideas might pop up on how the dark global elite frames self actualization. And they do it in many ways. And there are different false matrix archetypes of self actualization, and we need to be able to see through all of these lies. But I do think in more recent current times, we are seeing through these people more than ever. We're seeing through people like Oprah and Ashton Kutcher and seeing these celebrities for what they're truly about. And we're waking up to a lot right now. I remember when I first learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It was in my high school gifted class. And I'm not kidding. I'm not blaming her because this was a totally different time. I might add, this was my favorite teacher. She really taught us to question everything. We would read banned books. We made up our own Dante's Inferno. She really taught us to have an open mind when other classes were teaching you more how to be indoctrinated, basically. She was totally against that. She was an amazing teacher. So I'm not saying anything against her at all. I'm just pointing this out to say how far we've come as society and how we do see through things now. Because at the time, a lot of people believed what she believed. But at the time, an example she used of someone that has reached self actualization, she used the example of Oprah. So that's why I bring it up. So, really, just think how far we've come as society that so many people are seeing through the lies of the dark global elite and the lies of this dark global elite pyramid, where they use celebrities to get us to consume, to believe different things, to just fall into the programming. But I think a lot of these self actualization false matrix archetypes revolve around making a lot of money, paying a lot of taxes in the process, giving money to charity and flaunting it at galas. I mean, you know the drill. It really seems like that's the archetype for the false matrix self actualization process. But saying that though, there is some truth to this because the hierarchy of needs is human psychology and the dark global elite use it to their advantage. I mentioned in a previous podcast episode that one of the ways they control us is with money in the monetary system. To the dark global elite, money means nothing. They print more, they steal from society via taxes, and steal it and launder money via wars and charities. To them, it means nothing, but they want it to mean everything to us. And to us, it's our safety, our security, our freedom. It's how we take care of our family and how we feel safe about the future. Another thing, I don't know why a lot of this is popping up from high school. In a personal finance class, our teacher had us split up. She had us split up on different sides of the room. She said, if you want money for security, go to this side. And if you want money for freedom, go to the other side. Does that not say it all right there how this dark global elite control us? It's sad to me they control us this way because safety and security and freedom, all of those should just come innately. Outside of this, this is what we're used to. This is just how we live. We're safe, we're secure, we have freedom, we're sovereign, we live in bliss. It's so messed up that the dark global elite put this in place. So we literally have to work to make money to live. It's really messed up. And we're so conditioned and programmed because it's how it's been since we were born. We just accept it as the way it is. But I think so many people are waking up to these systems and how they control us. And money is a big, big way. The main way. Let's stop accepting this as how things are, how they have to be. Let's stop. And you might say, okay, if I believe that and I agree, what's it going to do? See, they have made us not believe in our true divinity and how things actually work energetically. Remember how the fourth dimension works. If we all start believing that and seeing past that we need money and seeing past this control that they use, and if we see this monetary system and money for the truth of it, how they want to control us this way, all of our thoughts will go into the fourth dimension and form the collective mind. And that will change things. It sounds crazy, but we live in a quantum matrix. That's how it works. So if you believe what I've been talking about on other podcasts, just really connect it here. That's how it all works. We can understand it all conceptually, but we need to start practicing it in our life so we can see this reflected in our reality. But okay, I went on a little tangent there. So I said there is some truth to the whole thought that the false matrix idea of self actualization is making a lot of money, paying a lot of taxes in the process. And then you reach a point where you're like, oh, I'm so satisfied. I was so successful. Now I'm going to give back, you know? To me, that's the false matrix idea of self actualization, but you might have a different idea. That is fine. But I'm saying there's truth to this because it truly is so much easier to even reach true self actualization and enlightenment when you don't care about money. And then you think, okay, who doesn't care or have to worry about money? It's either people who are naturally into the lifestyle of living in nature or living off the grid. Those people don't really need money and they don't really care about it. Or the people who are already wealthy. This is because the two bottom levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the biological and physiological, and then the next level, safety, these are the basic needs, like I mentioned, and these can be satisfied with money. And what happens when your basic needs aren't met? You probably live in fear. Fear of not having food, fear of getting evicted, fear of not meeting your children's needs. The emotion of fear keeps humanity under control by the dark global elite. Remember how I said the dark global elite can't sustain themselves, so they harvest humanity's energy? Their favorite emotional frequency is fear. So if they control the economy with these different mechanisms that they have, and thereby they control the monetary system, they are just pulling these puppet strings so people are stuck at those low levels of trying to meet their basic needs, trying to get food and security and housing. If they keep people at those low levels, people are fearful. People wonder, people worry about their future. It's all part of their plan. And this brings me to the very misguided and false matrix program when it comes to people using fear as a motivator. And you hear it a lot that people use fear as a motivator for what we think of as success. I hear people all the time talk about how they are successful now because of the fear they had growing up. And this is exactly what the false matrix wants. And yeah, that definitely works. I know so many people in my own life who I'm really close to who have talked like this before. If they didn't have their needs met as kids, then they know they can only rely on themselves. So that really drives them to try really hard and to do whatever it takes to be successful so they can provide for themselves and their family and never have to rely on anyone else. And yeah, that definitely works, but it's just feeding this false matrix system. It's not true self actualization or true enlightenment. I saw a TikTok recently that is a total example of this. I'm not sure if you'll know this person or not, but her name's Bethany Frankel. And she used to be on reality TV and she owns a successful food and beverage company where she had been showing her new house in the Hamptons off in some previous videos. And on this one, she was talking about how if she had safety and security when she was younger, she never would have had the house or had been successful. She never would have built a successful company. She really talks about fear was what drove her and got her to where she is today. She may be another example of someone who has reached self actualization in the false matrix way, not in the true enlightenment way. She feels successful now and she did it all herself. And she is going back and reflecting on this and sharing it with others. And that probably feels fulfilling to her in an ego sense. But like I talked about, true self actualization and true enlightenment is not that at all. It's a whole different thing. And that's what we should actually be going after. If you're not on that side of it and you're more on this ego, self actualization, yay, I was successful, now I can reflect and teach others of this journey, that's more an ego way. That's definitely a way, but just in the false matrix. And that's what they want. They want us stuck in that loop because that loop feeds them and keeps people under control and under lies, under the whole lie. And before I move on, I am totally not hating on Bethany. I'll get more into that later, but yeah, it's hard here, you know? And if you did grow up in a certain way and you're yearning for safety and security, you have blinders on because you're stuck in those lower frequencies of fear. I'm not blaming her at all. I'm not trying to drag her at all, but I'll get into that more later. So, needless to say, I disagreed with her video and the lesson she was trying to teach to others, but I definitely wanted to see what others were saying. So, I looked at the comments, and her words were resonating with many people. In the video, she also talked about how she is still friends with a man today that she either was married to already or she almost married. I can't remember what she said there. She said she wanted to be successful on her own and knew if she married him, he would provide security and she would feel safe and secure and never would have had the ambition to go out and build a company and be successful on her own. But also, again, I'm not dragging her and not hating on her, but we need to be careful who we take advice from. Because if you don't know her, she also brags about how she likes cynical people. And then she married someone else and had a really terrible divorce and had a big battle over her child. And she had the child with that man. And now she's single. But she is successful and has money. But before we take advice from anyone, we really need to step back and think, okay, do we want what this person has? Is this the life we want? And this is just my opinion, but this is all sad to me she's sharing this with many and acting like she has it all figured out, but it's so deeply controlled and programmed, and it's so false matrixy. Basically, she traded love for money and traded security for fear so she could use it to drive herself to be financially successful. But like I said, I'm not hating on her because it's hard here. We literally have to make money to survive. So I get wanting to be financially successful. I get all of that and feeling like you have no choice but to drive like that. And also, is this not the idea of feminine power that the media pushes? She truly thinks if she had love and security, she wouldn't have had the motivation or the ambition. That's sad to me when people feel that way because if you had love and security, then you wouldn't have had the need to go after shallow ideas of financial success, but then you would have opened up a whole new world where you go after things that truly fill your soul and truly give your life deep meaning and deep purpose. And that's when you have the time to fulfill your soul's purpose and your soul's mission. And in another podcast episode, I talk how important that is and go more into depth on that. As you can tell, and as you know by now, I love a good tangent. But let's go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's only when your basic needs of biological and physiological and safety, and then your psychological needs of love and belonging and esteem are met, that you are in a place to reach self actualization, elevated consciousness, and enlightenment. So, Bethany thinking if she had love and security, she wouldn't have had the motivation is really off base. And like I mentioned, this may lead to financial success, but it's a false matrix success and not true success and fulfillment on a soul level. If it's something your soul came here to do, you will feel called to that. And the call doesn't go away because you feel loved and secure. That fear thought process is so toxic and so messed up. We really need to get away from that as a society. But I do understand because if you don't have a spiritual foundation or believe in a bigger picture idea or consciousness or spirituality, if you don't have that, you might not even understand the concept that you have a soul's mission or a soul's purpose or there's something bigger that you came here to do. You might just have your blinders on and think in a super material, physical, we're here, then we die type of way of thinking. And I will say, not to drag her, but her food and her beverage company, it started out as just an alcohol company. So I guess she's right. If she had actually reached true self actualization and she needed to get there by having that love and belonging, that she definitely wouldn't have had that company, probably, because you know how I feel about alcohol. But with self actualization, true self actualization, you would have seen through this false matrix facade and all of these lies. And then you would go after goals that were more aligned with your soul's mission. And you would have known you were here for a bigger calling. But like I said, I'm not blaming her. I know it sounds like I am. I'm just using her as an example. But it's hard here, and the false matrix and the dark global elite can be really sneaky. Think about it, we're literally programmed from birth. The dark global elite make it hard for us by controlling the economy and making us work to make money to even merely survive. And then we go to school for years where we are completely indoctrinated. And I don't blame people for going after what makes money because, like I said, on earth under this false matrix, money means safety, security, and freedom. With money or not caring about money, our basic needs are met and we are in a better spot to reach for self actualization and enlightenment. And by the way, I don't think one side is more noble, whether you are already wealthy or you don't care about money. I don't think one way is right. It's just whatever comes natural to you is right. And the dark global elite want us to be divided and fighting against each other. We shouldn't be screaming, eat the rich, or going after people who are successful because of their hard work, or they were just good at working in this system. Your normal wealthy person is very, very different than the dark global elite. And go back to my episode on the dark pyramid of control. This is what we need to keep in mind. And I think most people already know this and don't just automatically hate all wealthy people, but sometimes we really see and hear the loud minority on social media. They eat the rich people or the women who seem to hate all men and think all problems stem from men. These all or nothing dualistic ways of thinking are really, really problematic, and we should avoid this. The dark global elite love this. They love it because a divided nation is easier to control. They want us fighting against each other, thinking the problem is with each other, so we're too busy and too distracted to see the real issue, and that's them. They like to stay hidden behind the scenes, and they have all of these ways of the pyramid to keep us distracted from the truth. Us being distracted in general is another big thing they love. I'm sure you can list off a million ways they keep us distracted. Too busy running from thing to thing to care about enlightenment and purpose and self fulfillment. I mean, dang, when you're caring about putting food on the table or you're saving up for a vacation, I mean, yeah, you're probably a little too preoccupied to care about enlightenment, and they do that on purpose. And many people don't reach higher states of consciousness or spirituality until their 50s or 60s, but that's not because of wisdom coming with older age. It's because they are finally less distracted and can merely think about these things. They have time to just walk around and to ponder. We are connected to our higher self, and our soul has lifetimes worth of knowledge and wisdom. The false matrix cuts us off from higher dimensional energies, the energies that cause us to naturally connect to our soul's wisdom. Earth age means nothing. We just need the time, the stillness, and practice to tap into higher dimensions and our soul's knowledge. And the dark global elite know this, so they want to keep us busy with indoctrination school, competing for money and jobs, busy with kids, and worried about the future. This next topic might be a hot take, but I really believe another program of the dark global elite is the idea of fulfillment via having children. It's pretty well known how people say having kids is hard. You have to completely change your life to fit their schedule and needs, but then they add on how it is so, so fulfilling, and they add on how you've never felt love like that. You literally would be so fulfilled without kids, but of course, once you have kids, your biological urges kick in to make you think it was the best decision. That feeling of love, etc. Some of this is biological urges, so you feel the love and need to care for them because they literally can't care for themselves. I'm absolutely not taking away any love you feel for your kids, though. Please don't take this offensively in any way. I definitely think some people are meant to have kids, but I think way more people are having them than should. People are programmed and raised a lot of the time, people being told, and then you just assume having kids is a natural progression in life. And like many things in this false matrix, this is programming and it's done for a purpose. Even getting married sometimes could fall into this category. It just depends if you have your sovereignty and your independence in your marriage. If you have the free time and you're still independent and doing your thing, then that's great. But if you get married and then all your time is then spent around that other person and you have to take care of them and you don't have time for yourself, then it would just fall into this category as well. I would say some of the ideas of traditional marriages might fall into this category though. I won't go into all that, just be open-minded and see what you think about it. But back to having kids. So This sounds bad, but the dark global elite need a workforce. They need people to have jobs in society to keep the economy working, people to fight in their wars, people to tax. And dang, this is dark, but remember what I said about one of the biggest money makers is human trafficking? And also, this is another little tangent. You know, I love those. But how messed up is it that army recruitment goes to high schools? But back on topic, the dark global elite isn't having politics discuss banning abortion because of ethical reasons. And also remember how the dark global elite also hijacked Christianity. This is a way they control via organized religion. They pull at people's heartstrings and manipulate using religious ideas in order to control and push their agenda on false pretenses. We literally need to question everything. And back to people having kids for a moment. Less people should be having kids, but these kids should be loved, protected, cherished. And these kids should be given so much wisdom from all of the members of society. We need to go back to the idea it takes a village. Those children should be held up and so loved by society. This would greatly help us. This would give the children more knowledge, more perspective, and so much guidance. And the kids would be more well rounded rather than being raised in a silo where they are raised in whatever specific beliefs and perspectives that the parents have and that the parents are teaching to the kids. I think this is how it should be in the ideal version, but I'll be the first to say the dark global elite makes this really hard because all of the chaos they create. And then only some people having kids gives others less distractions and more time to be in silence, meditate, and help society in other ways depending on their unique soul mission. I really think we should be more thoughtful before we decide to have kids. Do we feel this is actually why we came to Earth? Or are we just following along with societal or family expectations? Or even think about it, do we have past trauma related to this? Past trauma can cause us to feel the urge to have kids so we can be a better parent than we had, or give this kid more love or a better life than we had growing up. We think that will fix us. We may not even know that's what's driving our decision if we're unconscious about it. We just need to question everything and not follow along with societal expectations and programming. Back to how the global elite uses all the different levels of the hierarchy of needs besides true self actualization. So, here are some of the ways they use this for their dark agenda. So, let's think about if your basic needs aren't met. You're putting out a lot of fear around this, and they can harvest that fear and get energy that way. And if your basic needs aren't met, this is the main level for human trafficking. And this is whether it's human trafficking for low paid labor, like these factories, or even sex trafficking and luring people in via their unmet needs, saying they can have money or housing and give them any stability that way. People can get into a lot of bad situations when they feel like they have no other choice. And a lot of people in trafficking situations don't have stability at home and don't have their basic needs met. And this can make people feel like they have no other choice but to go into prostitution or be drug dealers or drug mules. People can get into really bad situations when they feel like they have no choice. And then if your psychological needs are unmet, let's talk about first your esteem, which is the fourth level. So if you are trying to fulfill that, but it's not met, these people really help the economy keep going because they are seeking fulfillment via traditional programmed ideas of financial success. And these people are also seeking fulfillment via consumerism and buying things because they might be status symbols. But there is duality here, like everything. I'm definitely not saying everyone who buys designer items or cares about clothes or buys nice cars. I'm not saying they're buying it for status symbols. It's nuanced. It's definitely nuanced. This level may also take advantage of others for power and money by seeking status, recognition, and self esteem. Like, just go back to the episode on the pyramid of the dark global elite, how they control. When I talk about this, think about all the levels of celebrities, some of the CEOs of industry, how they can be blackmailed to participate, and then all of the management and the politicians. I would say they definitely get manipulated at this level of seeking esteem. And then maybe some are just seeking stability via money. Okay, now let's talk about if your love and belonging, the third level, is unmet. This is another area for sex trafficking. People fall victim sometimes because they're seeking love and belonging. And this could be this kind of situation you hear about where you think you have a boyfriend and you think you're in love, but then they pimp you out. It can be that kind of situation of manipulation. And this can also lead to abuse situations and getting into abuse cycles. If you really want that love and belonging, but then you get into this bad cycle. And this can also lead to people not acting in alignment with their intuition, their soul, or their higher self to belong. If you want to belong, then you might be more likely to just be a sheep and follow along with society, how they're going, and their programming. If you just want to belong and fit in, then you might be afraid to speak your truth or share your opinion if you think others might go against it or call you crazy. And then in the beginning, I already talked about the fake, false matrix idea of self actualization. How, if you're seeking this level on a false matrix side of it, then you might think fulfillment is just giving to charities and feeling good about yourself that way. All right, so that's the podcast. I'll just hit a little summary of what I talked about. So, in summary, we talked about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the whole idea is you need to meet your basic needs and move up the pyramid, and you need all of those below needs met in order to be in a place where you can seek self actualization and enlightenment. And I talked about how the false matrix gives a different idea of self actualization than what is true. So we really need to be able to differentiate those. And we should be going after true self actualization, which is enlightenment, elevated consciousness, and really going after our soul's purpose and our soul's mission because we truly came here for a reason. And don't let the false matrix programming get you caught up. Don't fall into the programming of what you should do, what's natural to do. And then I talked about how the dark global elite can take advantage of people at every level of this pyramid. And I talked about how they can do that. And this is just to really open your eyes and help everyone start questioning everything. So I hope you liked this. If it resonated, send to loved ones, your family, your friends, and rate my podcast. When I see any reviews, it really makes me so happy. And they're so thoughtful, and I appreciate it so much. It really means the world to me. I love you all, and I hope you have a great day.